Learn how to create, distribute and use your own Swift packages. Hey, this is Flo. In this video I will teach you step-by-step instructions on how to create, manage, distribute and import your own Swift package. We will be using Xcode and GitHub as well as Swift Package Manager. This is the last special episode of my Advent of Packages series, so if you haven't checked out some of the previous videos, I have showed you a bunch of very helpful Swift packages for your day-to-day Swift UI life, and this is just the last bonus episode basically where I teach you how to create your own package. So let's get started. First, let's create an actual package in Xcode, and as you can see, there is no create package option here in the startup menu of Xcode. So what you need to do is go to File, New Package inside of the menu bar. Click on Package and then Xcode will open up and you will have to give your package a name. We will be creating a package with only a single function that is used to center a Swift UI view horizontally. So we will call this Swift UI centered. You can already make sure to check create Git repository on my Mac because you will need to do that. So let's hit create. When you're opening the package for the first time, you will notice that there isn't a similar structure compared to other Xcode projects that you might have previously worked on. The difference here is that there is only a package.swift file instead of a your app name.xcode project file. And this package.swift file is basically the definition of your package, meaning that it contains all of the dependencies that your package depends on. For example, if your package needs another package to work, then you would have to define this in here. You also define the package's name, all of the targets that you produce, all of the test targets that you have, all of the platforms that you support, and so on. Then there is also a README, which is just a markdown file that can be displayed inside of Swift Package Manager and Xcode, and also inside of your GitHub repository. And then there are two folders auto-generated. The first one is the sources folder where all of your source files will go. So in this case, there is the Swift UI centered source file that's auto-generated. And then there is also a tests folder where you can write unit tests. There is also one generated for you right here, but oftentimes this generated test is actually very useless, and if you're not going to add your own test, then you might as well get rid of it. Before we touch anything here, let's get back to package.swift so I can show you how this is structured. So basically this file declares a package, which is a type from the package description framework. And the most important things are already predefined for us. So you will have the package name. That's basically what the user has to use or what you have to use if you want to import the package. So in our case, we will have to say import Swift UI centered. Then all of the products that your package generates are in here. I like to remove all of these comments because after a while you know what everything is. Then there's a list of dependencies that you might have. For example, if you're using the SD web image Swift UI package, inside of this package you need to put it in here as a dependency using this syntax that's already shown here in the comment. Since we don't have any, let's get rid of that comment as well. And then there's also the targets, and you also have your test targets here. Since I already told you that predefined tests here don't really make sense once you start actually coding your package. We will not go into testing in this video, so I will just remove this test target here. Let's also remove this comment here. And then after we remove the test target, let's also remove the test folder. Let's say move to trash, and it's gone. Nothing to worry about anymore. Now there's one thing that you need to keep in mind in the package.swift file, and that's the platforms. That's another array that you can define, and in here you can specify which platforms can use this package. For example, you could say .ios and then hit enter, another dot, and you can specify which iOS version can use this package. So if you have a package that relies on SwiftUI 3 features, for example, you might have to limit it to iOS.v15. And Xcode is telling us here that platforms must precede products. So let's copy this and move it in front of products. Of course, you can add multiple platforms here. So you could also say .macOS version 12, for example, the newest version. For now, I will just keep it as iOS 15 only, but this is something that you will have to look into when you're actually creating your package. Okay, let's get to actually implementing some code that we can then use inside of another app. So let's remove all of the auto-generated example code here. Instead, as I told you, we will implement a simple view modifier, or actually just a function, not even a view modifier, that will center a view horizontally. For that, of course, we need to import SwiftUI. Now, this is already the first point in developing your package where you need to make sure that you have the correct platform selected. On some platforms, SwiftUI might not be available, especially if you're targeting older versions of them. Okay, as I said, we will just have a very simple example here. I will not even create a view modifier. I will just create an extension on view to directly implement a function. So let's do that real quick. We call it center horizontally. This will return some view. And basically what the function is just an H stack with a spacer on the left, a spacer on the right, and then self, the current view where you apply this modifier to, in the center. Now there's already another caveat here that you really need to pay attention to, and that's access control types. Now by default in Swift everything will be internal, meaning that you would not be able to use the function center horizontally outside of this package, even if you imported the package. So you really need to make sure that everything that you want to use is declared as public. Just like this. Of course, some things might be better to stay internal or private or file private or whatever. But most of the time you really need to make sure to make stuff public, especially if you're dealing with initializers. I oftentimes forget to make things public, so keep that in mind. Okay, now that that is done, let's move back to the readme.markdown. This is the front page of your GitHub repository and also what's shown to a user when importing your package through Swift Package Manager in Xcode. So basically what you want is a clear example of how to install a package and how to use the package. So for that, now I assume that you know a bit of Markdown. This will not be too Markdown heavy. You usually have some installation instructions, and so you would usually say to install this package, import, and then put the GitHub URL of your package. We will get to that in just a second. So let's just say URL here in Swift Package Manager. Just a simple one-liner so everyone knows how to use it. If you're supporting CocoaPods or whatever, that would also go into this section. This video is just about Swift Package Manager though. And then next up, you usually have a usage example. One example is enough for this package. You can also write more detailed docs, including a table or an overview of all the functions and classes and types and whatever that you have. In this case, we will just have a simple piece of Swift code. Let me write this out real quick, centered, and then here we can just call our center horizontally function. It doesn't really even make sense, but the point is just provide a very clear usage example of how your package can be used, so everyone who just skims over the description instantly knows how it's being used. Okay, so now that we have our actual code implemented, we have our package.swift set up, and we have a tiny README set up. By the way, inside of the README you can also add your license agreement or contributing guidelines or whatever. Now that we have all of that set up, let's make sure that it works integrated with GitHub. Navigate to the source control navigator, into the repository section, right click onto your package's name and then say new SwiftUI centered remote or new your package name remote. There you can log into your GitHub account if you have it connected with Xcode. you can directly create a repository. Make sure to set it as public if you want anyone to be able to use it, or as private if you only want yourself to be able to use it. So I have already created a Git repository locally on my machine, but now I want to push it to GitHub. So I will just leave everything here as it is, my private GitHub account, myself as the owner. The repository name should just be the same as the package name. Let's leave it public. Let's not add a description. You can also do that on GitHub later. Let's just hit create. Now this repository will get created on GitHub. Now let's navigate to the source control tab and go to commit. You can also do that via command option C. And then you can see all of the files that you edited. So let me just call this initial commit. Make sure to select push to remote and then commit for files and push, and everything will be pushed to GitHub. Let's get over there and have a look at the package on GitHub. Okay, so I'm now on the GitHub page for the repository. Over here you can see the repository's name. You can directly grab the URL from the address bar in your browser, or you can just go over here to grab the URL. Let's actually do that right now. So let's copy the URL and let's actually add it into the installation instructions in our README file. To do that, we can either go back to Xcode or directly edit it in GitHub here. So for now, let's go back to Xcode because there's something else that I want to show you. Let's remove the URL here part and instead paste in the actual URL, and you don't need the .git part in the end. This should be fine. Of course, this URL will be different for your package, but I think that's obvious. Now, one reason why I wanted to go back to Xcode is because there's one more very important part that you might not want to miss. And that thing is versioning. If you want to release different versions of your package, you really need to pay attention right now. There are different ways of importing a package. You can either import it via a branch, via an exact version, or via a version rule like up to next major. For both of the later two ones, you will have to publish versions of your package. To do that, there are 3 simple steps. First of all, commit something, or at least have a commit of your repository. For now, I will just commit this add repository URL. When you're doing an extra commit here, as I said, you don't really need to, but if you're doing an extra commit here, make sure to not push to remote. Let's just say commit one file. As I said, this will also work if you don't have a commit available locally, but this is the way that I like to do it. I like to tag and then push. You can also push, then tag, then push again. Doesn't really matter, but this way we save one push basically. Now the important part is to tag your commits. The tag is basically the version number that will be shown on GitHub and inside of Xcode. To do that, let's go to the source control navigator again, onto repositories, into branches. So you have your current branch here. In my case, the main branch. You can right click the branch and select tag. This will basically associate a tag. I like to do numbers. So for example, 1.0.0. This is the first version. You can also add a message. Not needed in this case. Let's just hit create. And now that we have a tag associated with our commit, you can go back to source control, push. And now here in this window, the very important part is you have to check include tags. Otherwise they will not get pushed to GitHub and nobody will know about the version number of your package. So select include tags here, then hit push. Let's get back to GitHub and refresh the page. And now you will see here on the right hand side under the releases section, there is one tag available. You can also create releases from GitHub, but it's not actually needed. All you really need is a tag. Okay, now the last thing is to actually use this package inside of an Xcode project. To do that, let me open up my Advent of Packages project real quick. Okay, so I'm inside of the Advent of Packages project now. Let me try to add our newly created SwiftUI centered package. For that, there are many different ways in Xcode. The easiest one in my opinion is to go to the project navigator, to package dependencies, hit the little plus icon, and then you can just paste in the repository URL. As I said, we don't need the .git part. So now you can see that I can select a dependency rule like up to next major version here, and Xcode automatically detected that the current version is 1.0.0 because that's the tag that we push to GitHub. Now in this section down here, you would usually see the readme.markdown file that we created earlier. In some cases, Xcode doesn't load it. I don't know why. In that case, just head over to GitHub and there you can see your readme file as well. Let's just say add package for now, add package again. And now it is imported. Now to use the package, just go into content view in our example here. Let's say import Swift UI centered, and then we can say dot center horizontally. Sometimes Xcode can't resolve these functions or can't find modules. Now this project here, I've used this for the whole advent of packages series, so I've constantly imported and removed packages. Maybe that broke something inside of Xcode. Usually this should work just fine. And in fact, if we run this on the simulator now, let's say ABC here, hit run, then this should work without any issue. As you can see, it compiled. So of course this text would already be centered beforehand, but this is just an example to show you how to do the whole package flow of creation, upload, managing, and then using it. I hope that you learned something. If you build any cool packages, please let me know by leaving a comment down below. Also make sure to subscribe to the channel for more videos and tutorials, and I hope to see you on the next one. Bye.